Hey guys, this is Tony and we're back on the bench. And this afternoon, we're going to be doing a walkthrough service here on a Shimano Calcutta. This happens to be the 201B model. So this is a left-handed reel, all right? And, anytime you're working on, a left-handed reel, you have to keep certain things in mind. Such as, the threads are reversed, like on the handle, taking the handle nut off and, all these parts and stuff. So you kind of do everything, a little differently if you're used to working on a right-handed reel, but we're going to get into it and, we're going to talk about it along the way. So as I said before, this is a walkthrough service. I've actually already serviced this reel. It needed a little bit of cleaning, and I actually had to remember somewhat how to actually work on this particular model. I have worked on it before, but being that it's a left-handed reel, sometimes you got to remind yourself how that works. So this is a 10 mil nut here. We'll take that off. We've got our handle. Then there's a sleeve, tension sleeve. But the whole point of this is just to go through all these steps one by one, so that if you have this reel, or if you're thinking of picking it up, you'll know how to service it. Make note that there is a washer hiding under there. You want to clean all this out, of course, as well as all the parts. You got two concave washers here, and you want to make note of the orientation of these washers, okay? And put those back accordingly. Okay, so now we're ready to take our thumb screws apart here on this side. And there's a third one here. Okay, so we got the handle side apart there from the rest of the reel. We're going to pop our spool out here. So it's a nice narrow little spool. These are great little baitcaster reels. Okay, so let's have a look here at this section of the reel. Now when you take all this apart, this is still attached and there's a spring in here, okay, and it's held in by this rod. All right, that's just part of, the design. But there's really nothing else going on this side of the reel other than this right here. So if you wanted to get the worm gear out here, this is how you would do it, okay? And all that you have to do is take a small screwdriver such as this and pop that C-ring out, okay? There's a washer hiding underneath and then a plastic bushing, okay? And you want to make note of the orientation of those parts, okay? And that's if you need to clean this. In this case, this really needed to be cleaned, okay? So I did take it out, all right? And then when we go back with a little bit of oil, okay, and we flood that worm gear with a little bit of oil, okay? And then we also check our pawl as well, okay? And to inspect the pawl, you take out this screw here, and I'll demonstrate that here right now. Take this out. And it's kind of tight quarters here, so you kind of have to be patient and just kind of roll with it. And there's actually more space, I believe, on the other side here, on this side, if I recall correctly. I know that sounds a little strange, but there actually is a little bit more space on that side, which enables you to take this off. Make note that there is a tiny washer, and it might be stuck there or it might be up here beneath the pawl, okay? You don't want to lose that washer. It's a spacer washer. Okay, then you should be able to get a small, like little Phillips screwdriver such as this, and get your pawl out here, okay? You want to inspect the teeth. In this case, the teeth are in good shape right here, okay? You can see, that they're nice and clean and sharp, all right? That's what you need, okay? So once you have that done, and you clean up all this here on the inside, you can go back and put your pawl back in. You just kind of have to take your time doing this. It's just really, really tight quarters. You want to make sure that this is nested in the groove of the worm gear, okay? And then you go back with your screw cap and that washer. Okay, in this case, it was still, in the cap. And then give that a small turn. You're threading a metal thread on a plastic thread, so you just want to use caution doing this, okay? And you don't want to over tighten it, and you need to make sure that it's actually lined up with that groove. And right now, it seems to have gotten off course just a little bit, so we want to line that back up again and make sure that it's nested in the groove. Okay, I can tell it's almost there, because it's kind of moving back and forth a little bit, but that's not quite it. And this is just kind of a trial and error thing here. You just kind of have to keep working it until it gets nestled in the right spot. Okay, so now it's moving back and forth as it should. Okay, so we'll bring it back over here and tighten that up gently. Okay, so that's all you need to do. A little bit of real oil here. That's going to work its way into those pawl teeth. Okay, a little bit of real oil here on the bearing. Okay, and then a little bit here. And then you just want to take a little bit of blue grease here to that wheel, that gear here. And it meshes with plastic gears on the other side. But you just want to prevent any corrosion damage or anything. And you can put a little bit here on this shaft, that rod right there. Okay, now for the rest of this, we've cleaned up our spool, okay, the best that we can. Take a little bit of real oil here to the bearing, and then a little bit of blue grease here on the shaft, both sides, just a little bit. Okay, and then you can drop that back down into position like so. And again, this is kind of a narrow, setup here, so just, take your time and be patient. Sometimes line has a tendency to get caught up in there, like it's doing to me right now. Okay, so we'll put that off to the side. That's all good to go. Now let's focus on this side of the reel. Okay, so we've got 2 screws in these positions that have to come out next. We're going to take those out here with the right screwdriver. We got 1 screw, and the second one down here. Spring it's still attached there. So here we want to clean up all of this. Use WD-40, Q-tips, toothbrushes, things like that. You want to clean up all these pieces and parts here the best that you can. And then when you're ready, go with some real oil here and apply it to that bearing. Now this is a roller bearing down here at the base, and it has a collar in it, and this collar should be inspected and taken out and checked for any signs of rust damage or anything of that sort. But these roller bearings are actually self-lubed within this Teflon ring, so they don't really have to be lubed up, but you can apply a light film of some, pen grease, on the outside of that, and, there's no problem with that at all. Okay. Now for the rest of the innards here that we have, so we've got a main gear and a clutch kit. We've got some springs here, and then we've also got our pinion gear assembly. I want to try to get the main gear out here first. Okay, so you want to take all these parts out here. Pinion yoke, pinion gear, all right, and then here we've got our, it's not really a dog, it's an anti-reverse ratchet set here, okay, and you need to take those pieces out, okay. Now, to top it all off, there is a spacer washer that hides underneath this main gear. You just want to make note of that as well. Okay, and then we've got a fiber washer here, and then a metal washer, and then your main gear. Okay, so that's what that looks like. In here, you want to spray this down with some WD-40, toothbrush, Q-tips, clean all this up, and then go back and just do a light little bead of oil, on these shafts here. Okay, you can also use blue grease on these as well. There's no problem with that. Okay, these are Teflon, plastic gears here, so they don't need to be lubed. That's really all you need to do here. All right, it's pretty basic, setup. Okay, clean all the teeth out from your main gear. All right, and then when you're ready, you make sure all these washers are nice and clean, and then you go back and you need to get these fins lined up here and put your ratchet kit back on first, anti-reverse kit. Okay, so it should look like that. And then go back with that fiber washer like so. All right, and then we've got these washers here. Now this particular washer, I'm not sure if this is the stock washer or not. It probably is. It's not really like a carbon fiber washer. It's just a kind of a hardened style washer. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't need to apply grease to that kind of washer. Okay, and then you got a metal washer that rests on top. All right, and then what I do here is I'll just apply some grease right now to those gear teeth before we set this back in. And just try to get it worked on the gear teeth here, and try not to drop it in the process. So get those teeth filled with some of that grease, and then we'll go back, set it down in position like that. Okay, and then there's that sleeve, and it's got the teeth on the end, and that needs to go down into the grooves of that top washer there. Okay, and then you want to clean up your pinion yoke and gear. Okay, clean it off with WD-40 and then apply some blue grease, which you can see there's already plenty of it on there. So I'm just going to put that back because I've already done the service technically on this. And then we've got our two pinion yoke springs. Okay, now putting this back, it's basically just making sure things are aligned correctly. Okay, so we're gonna just work this back in, and we got to get our holes lined up with those holes on the inside. Should be like that. Okay, don't forget to put a little bit of real oil on these threads, whether it's on the female end or the male end of the screw, but just make sure that they stay lubed. It'll protect those threads, prevent them from, snapping the heads off when you go to take the reel apart. And essentially, that's what these videos are about. All my videos are pretty much to help anyone that is working on a fishing reel and they either don't know how, or they started to take it apart and they can't figure out how to put it back together, or they're a little nervous to even attempt to take it apart. And there's really only so many reel repairmen out there these days, so unfortunately it's kind of a thing of the past. I mean, there's still some out there, but you have to know who they are, where they are. Snug up those screws just a little bit. You gotta make sure that this collar is resting in there just right. Okay, so now we're ready to put our handle assembly back with the rest of the reel. Now when you go to do this, it's important to note that you need to have your release button in this position here. Okay, not down here, not in the middle. It's got to be all the way up. Okay, otherwise you're not going to ever get this back on right. Okay, and then you just need to line up your holes accordingly, like so. Then give your thumb screws a couple of turns, get those started. And try to apply pressure, keeping that button in the upward position. Okay. It should come back together something like that. Okay, so that works good. All right. And then go back with your concave washers. And don't forget that washer that's on the inside of this star wheel. Okay, and remember that it is reverse thread for left. So put the sleeve back on here. And then we'll go back with the handle. And the nut first. 10 mil nut. Just tighten that up gently. And we'll apply a little bead of oil. Get this set. A little bead of oil there. And put the set screw back in. So with a little time and patience, you can work on this reel. Okay, so let's try it out and let's see how it functions. Okay, so our line guide and worm gear are working properly, moving back and forth real smoothly. Okay, our free spool is working good. Okay, so that's a good deal there. And then we just want to make sure that our drag is holding. So we'll loosen it up a little bit and then we'll tighten it up. And it's definitely nice and smooth. Classic Shimano smooth drag. So there you have it. That is the Shimano Calcutta 201B, all serviced up and ready to go. And thanks again for watching. This is Tony with Back on the Bench. If you liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please make sure you do subscribe, hit the notification button. That way you will get all the updates as to when there are new videos coming out. And there will be quite a few more coming out here shortly, coming up on the bench. So stay tuned for those, and we'll see you next time.